Dad, Rachel and I have decided. You won't be joining us for Christmas this year. I stared at the half-packed boxes in my living room, the phone pressed against my ear. My late wife Eleanor's reading glasses still sitting on the coffee table where she'd left them 3 months ago. The oncologist had given her 6 months. She'd made it to 5. David, my voice cracked. It's our first Christmas without your mother? That's exactly why, Dad. My son's tone was measured, practiced. Rachel's parents are hosting. And honestly, it's going to be a small gathering. You'd be uncomfortable. You know how you get emotional about Mom. It would just make everyone feel awkward. I sat down on Eleanor's favorite armchair, the one by the window overlooking our garden in North Vancouver. 42 years we'd lived in this house. 42 years of Christmases, birthdays, graduations, all of it in these walls. I understand, I said quietly, though I didn't. Not really. Great. Look, there's actually something else we need to discuss. Rachel and I have been talking, and we think it's time to have a serious conversation about your living situation. My living situation? You're 65 now, Dad. Living alone in a 4-bedroom house. All those stairs. The garden maintenance. Mom was the one who managed everything, and let's be honest, you're not getting any younger. We've been looking at some excellent senior living communities in Surrey, much more practical. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Eleanor had been gone 93 days, and my son was already planning to put me away. I'm not interested in moving, David. This is my home. Dad, be reasonable. That house is worth at least $2 million in today's market. You're sitting on a fortune while living alone in a place that's far too big for you. It doesn't make financial sense. There it was. The house. The money. I should have seen it coming. We'll talk about this later, I said. I need to go. Fine. But think about what I said. Oh, and Dad, maybe don't mention the Christmas thing to Aunt Patricia. You know how she gets dramatic about family stuff. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, in Eleanor's chair, for a long time, watching the November rain streak down the windows. My sister Patricia lived in Kelowna, 300 kilometers away. My daughter Sarah was in Halifax, working as a marine biologist. David was my only child in Vancouver, barely 20 minutes away, and he'd just told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas. Eleanor would have known what to do. She always did. But Eleanor was in a plot at Forest Lawn Cemetery, and I was alone. The weeks that followed were a blur of gray skies and empty rooms. David called twice more about the living situation, each time more insistent. He'd found a place called Sunrise Gardens in Surrey. 1 bedroom, communal dining, activities coordinator. He made it sound like summer camp for old people. It's only $4,500 a month, Dad. Very reasonable. And you'd have people around you, make new friends. It's not healthy, you living alone like this. I said no, David. Then at least let us help you. Rachel and I could move in for a while, help you sort through Mom's things, get the house organized. It's too much for you to handle alone. That's when the alarm bells should have gone off. But grief makes you stupid. It makes you desperate for connection, even from people who don't have your best interests at heart. Maybe for a couple of weeks, I heard myself say. Just until I get back on my feet. Perfect. We'll bring some things over this weekend. They arrived on Saturday with more than some things. They arrived with a U-Haul truck. We're just going to stay in the guest room and Sarah's old room, David explained as they carried in boxes, furniture, a new television. Make ourselves useful. You won't even notice we're here. But I noticed. Oh, I noticed. Within 3 days, Rachel had reorganized the kitchen. Your system doesn't make any sense, Robert. Eleanor must have been very patient. She'd stopped calling me Dad after the wedding 5 years ago. Within a week, David was holding meetings in my home office. His digital marketing company was transitioning to remote work. My desk, the one Eleanor had given me when I retired from BC Hydro, was pushed into the corner to make room for his standing desk. Within 2 weeks, Rachel was redecorating the living room. These curtains are so dated. And this wallpaper? Robert, it's giving very 1,990 seconds. We need to freshen things up. Eleanor chose those curtains, I said quietly. Exactly my point. I should have put my foot down then. but I was still in that fog of grief where every day felt like walking through mud. I'd wake up reaching for Eleanor, forgetting for just a moment that she was gone, and then the reality would hit me again like a fresh wound. David found me in the garden one afternoon in early December. I was pruning the roses Eleanor had planted 15 years ago. She'd babied these roses through every winter, wrapped them carefully against the frost. "Dad, we need to talk about the holidays." I thought I wasn't invited to Christmas. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "That's actually what I wanted to discuss. Rachel and I have decided to host Christmas here, at the house. Her parents, her sister, my colleagues from work. It's going to be a big gathering. Here? In my house?" "It makes sense, Dad. We're already living here. We've been fixing the place up. And honestly, you're not really in a state to host anything. You'd probably just sit in your room anyway. We'll take care of everything." Something cold settled in my chest. And where exactly am I supposed to be during this gathering? Well, that's the thing. We were thinking maybe you could visit Sarah in Halifax for the holidays. She'd love to see you. Or Aunt Patricia in Kelowna. Make it a nice trip. You want me to leave my own house for Christmas? It's not like that, Dad. It's just, Rachel's family doesn't really know how to act around grief. It makes them uncomfortable. And you're still so raw about Mom. It would just be easier for everyone if... Get out. David blinked. What? You heard me. Pack your things and get out of my house. Dad, you're being unreasonable. We're trying to help you. Help me? You've been here less than 3 weeks and you've taken over my home? You want me to leave for Christmas so you can play house with your wife's family in the home I built with your mother? We've been discussing this, Dad. Rachel and I. We don't think you're competent to live alone anymore. The house is falling apart. You're falling apart. We're not leaving. In fact, we think it's time to make this arrangement permanent. That's when I saw it. In his eyes. The calculation. The plan. This wasn't about helping me. It had never been about helping me. I want you out by tomorrow night. That's not going to happen. We've established residency. You'd have to formally evict us, and that takes months in British Columbia. By then, we'll have convinced the courts you're not mentally fit to live alone. Face it, Dad. You need us. He walked away, leaving me standing in the garden among Eleanor's roses. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to Rachel laughing in what used to be Sarah's room, the sound of them living their lives in my home while I was supposed to just fade away into some corner. At 2 a.m., I got up and went to my office. David's computer was in sleep mode. I woke it up. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'd spent 30 years as a systems engineer at BC Hydro. I knew my way around a computer, and David, like so many people his age, assumed older people were technologically illiterate. His email was open. I started reading. The first email was to a realtor, looking to list a property in North Vancouver, approximately $2 million value, probably February or March. Owner is elderly and will be relocating to care facility. Can you send me comparable sales? The second was to the manager at Sunrise Gardens. My father will be moving in around March. We'll need the most economical option. He's on a fixed pension. Can you hold a unit? The third was to Rachel. Talk to the lawyer. Once Dad signs the power of attorney papers, we can start the process. He's clearly not capable of managing his affairs. The house sale should clear at least $1.8 million after costs. That's $900K each. We can finally buy that condo in Yaletown. The fourth was to his sister, my daughter Sarah. Sarah, I know you don't want to hear this, but Dad's not doing well. He's confused, emotional, not taking care of himself. Rachel and I are handling it. We'll need you to sign off on the care home placement when the time comes. You'll get your share of the house sale. Don't worry. Sarah's response was short. David, have you actually talked to Dad about any of this? Called him? I spoke to him last week and he sounded fine. Sad, but fine. What are you really doing? David's reply. You're across the country, Sarah. You don't see what we see. Trust me on this. I sat back in my chair, my hands shaking. My son was planning to have me declared incompetent, force me into a care home, and sell my house. The house Eleanor and I had scraped together every penny to buy in 1982. The house where we'd raised our children. The house where she'd died in our bedroom, holding my hand, making me promise I'd take care of myself. I forwarded every email to my own account. Then I kept reading. There were emails to furniture stores about staging the property, messages to David's friends about finally getting that investment property money, a spreadsheet titled Dad's House Sale Breakdown with detailed calculations of their cut versus Dad's care costs. They'd been planning this for months, probably since Eleanor's diagnosis. They'd just been waiting for her to die. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly put the computer back to sleep. I made it to my room just as David emerged from Sarah's old room to get water. The next morning, I called Patricia. "Bobby, it's 7 in the morning. What's wrong?" I told her everything. Every word David had said, every email I'd found. There was a long silence. Then, "That little bastard. Eleanor would kill him herself if she was here. What do you need?" "A lawyer. A good one. I know someone in Vancouver, family law specialist. I'll call her right now." "Patricia, I don't know if I can afford—" "Robert David Morrison, you shut your mouth right now. You and Eleanor helped put me through nursing school when Tom walked out on me. You gave me a place to stay when I had nothing. You're my little brother, and I love you. We're fixing this." 2 hours later, I was sitting in the office of Margaret Chen, a family lawyer in downtown Vancouver. I'd told David I was going to the grocery store. He'd barely looked up from his laptop. I showed Margaret everything. The emails, the messages, the spreadsheet. I explained about Eleanor, about the Christmas exclusion, about how they'd moved in under false pretenses. Margaret sat back in her chair, her expression hard. "Mr. Morrison, what your son is attempting is called undue influence and elder abuse. The emails alone prove intent to defraud. The fact that he's spreading false information about your mental competence could constitute defamation. Can we get them out of my house? We can do better than that. We can make sure they never try this again. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. How are you really doing? Mentally, physically? I'm grieving. I'm sad. I miss my wife every single day. But I pay my bills. I make my own meals. I maintain my house and garden. I volunteer at the hospital twice a week, the same way I have for 15 years. I'm lonely, but I'm not incompetent. Good, because you're going to need to prove that. I want you to see your doctor, get a full cognitive assessment. I want documentation that you're of sound mind. Can you do that? Yes. Perfect. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home and act normal. Don't let them know you're on to them. Meanwhile, I'm going to file for an emergency injunction. We're going to get them out of that house, and then we're going to make sure your son understands there are consequences for elder abuse." I spent the next 3 days playing the confused old man. I let Rachel reorganize the bathroom. I nodded along when David talked about visiting care facilities. I even let him make an appointment with a lawyer friend of his to discuss estate planning. All the while, Margaret was building our case. On Thursday evening, David sat me down at the kitchen table. Rachel was there too, her expression sympathetic in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "Dad, we've been talking, and we really think it's time to take the next step. Tomorrow, we're going to visit Sunrise Gardens. Just look around. No pressure. And then we have an appointment with a lawyer to discuss setting up power of attorney. It's really the responsible thing to do." "Power of attorney," I repeated slowly, as if I didn't understand. "It just means Rachel and I can help you manage things, pay bills, make decisions, that sort of thing. It's very common for people your age." "I don't know, David. That sounds like a big step." "It's for your own good, Dad. You can't manage all this alone. Look around. The house is too much for you. Mom handled everything, and now she's gone. Let us help you. What about Sarah? Shouldn't she be part of this conversation?" David and Rachel exchanged a glance. "Sarah's very busy with her work. We'll keep her informed." That night, I barely slept. Part of me couldn't believe my own son would do this. Part of me had known for years that David was more like Eleanor's father than either of us wanted to admit. Eleanor's father had been a businessman, always calculating angles, always looking for advantage. Eleanor had spent her whole life trying to teach David different values. Apparently, we'd failed. Friday morning, I got dressed in my best suit, the same one I'd worn to Eleanor's funeral. "Dad, why are you so dressed up?" "We're just visiting a care home. I thought we were meeting with a lawyer after." "I want to look presentable." David smiled. "That's good, Dad. That's really good." We drove to Sunrise Gardens in David's Tesla. Rachel kept up a constant stream of cheerful chatter about how wonderful the facility was, how many activities they had, how I'd make so many new friends. The place was exactly what I'd expected. Clean, institutional, smelling of disinfectant and cafeteria food. The suite they showed me was a single room with a bathroom, maybe 400 square feet. The window looked out at a parking lot. "What do you think, Dad?" David asked. "It's nice, right? Very safe. It's very small. But you don't need much space at your age. And look, there's a common room. You can play cards, watch movies with the other residents." The other residents were sitting in wheelchairs in front of a television, most of them asleep. A few looked alert, but they had that glazed expression of people on too much medication. "I'd like to go now," I said. "But we haven't finished the tour." "I'd like to go now, David." The lawyer's office was downtown, in a glass tower overlooking the harbor. David's friend Mark was young, probably barely 30, with an expensive suit and a firm handshake. "Mr. Morrison, David's told me so much about you. I'm very sorry for your loss." "Thank you." "So, we're here today to discuss setting up a power of attorney arrangement. David and Rachel would be your attorneys, meaning they'd be authorized to make financial and medical decisions on your behalf. It's really very straightforward, just a few signatures." He slid papers across the desk. I picked them up, pretending to read them. "This says I give David complete control over my assets. Only to help manage them, Dad," David said quickly. "We'd never do anything without consulting you." I thought of the emails, the spreadsheet, the furniture staging plans. "I see. And this part about medical decisions? That's just so we can talk to your doctors. Make sure you're getting the care you need." "The care home, you mean?" "Eventually, yes. When the time is right." I set the papers down. "No." David's smile faltered. "Dad, I really think—" I said, "No, David. I'm not signing these papers. I'm not moving into that facility. I'm not giving you control over my life." "Dad, you're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly. In fact, I've been thinking very clearly for the past 4 days. Clearly enough to forward your emails to myself. Clearly enough to consult with my own lawyer. And clearly enough to know that what you're attempting is called elder abuse." The room went very quiet. David's face lost all color. "I don't know what you think you found. I found your correspondence with the realtor. Your plans to sell my house. Your messages to Sarah claiming I'm incompetent. Your spreadsheet calculating how you'd split the money from selling the home your mother and I built together." Rachel started to say something, but I held up my hand. "I'm not finished. I also know that you've been planning this since your mother's diagnosis, that you moved into my house under false pretenses, that you excluded me from Christmas, not because I'd be uncomfortable, but because you wanted to establish possession of my home." "Dad, you're misunderstanding." "Mark, I assume you're recording this meeting?" The lawyer looked uncomfortable. "Standard practice? Yes." "Good. Then you'll have record that I'm of sound mind, that I'm refusing to sign these documents, and that I'm formally ordering my son and his wife to vacate my property within 72 hours. "You can't do that," Rachel said, her sympathetic mask finally cracking. "We have tenant rights. You have nothing. You're not tenants, you're guests who have overstayed their welcome. And if you're not out by Monday evening, I'll have the police remove you for trespassing. I'm also putting you on notice that any attempt to claim I'm mentally incompetent will be met with legal action for defamation. My lawyer has already prepared the paperwork." I stood up, my legs steadier than they'd been in months. "David, your mother loved you more than anything in this world. She believed in you even when you gave her reasons not to. She thought you'd grow into a better man than your grandfather. She was wrong, and I'm ashamed to call you my son." I walked out of that office with my head high, leaving them sitting in stunned silence. Margaret had a car waiting for me downstairs. "How'd it go?" "Better than expected." "Good." Because we've got the injunction. Sheriff's already at your house, changing the locks. They've got 2 hours to pack essentials. Everything else stays until we sort out property disputes. I've also filed paperwork documenting the attempted fraud. If they so much as breathe wrong, we'll have criminal charges ready to go. When we got back to the house, there was a sheriff's car in the driveway. David and Rachel were throwing things into suitcases, both of them crying. The sheriff handed me my new keys. "Mr. Morrison, we've documented everything they brought in. They can come back with a police escort to collect the rest in a few days. For now, they're trespassed from the property." I watched them load their car. David tried to approach me once, but the sheriff stepped between us. "Dad, please. I'm sorry. We needed the money. The business is struggling. And you have 30 seconds to leave my property." They drove away. I stood in my driveway and watched the taillights disappear. The house felt enormous and empty. I walked through it slowly, room by room. In the kitchen, Eleanor's apron still hung on its hook. In the bedroom, her side of the closet still held her clothes. In the garden, her roses were preparing for winter, wrapping themselves tight against the cold. I sat in her chair by the window and finally, for the first time since the funeral, I let myself cry. Not just for Eleanor, but for the son I thought I had, for the family I thought we'd been, for the illusion that had been shattered. The phone rang. "Sarah." "Dad? David just called me. He's saying you kicked him out, that you're confused, that—" "Sarah, I need to send you some emails. Read them, and then call me back." 20 minutes later, she called back. She was crying. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have seen this. I should have been there. You couldn't have known. I'm coming home. I can get a flight tomorrow." "You shouldn't be alone. Sarah, you have your work." "Dad, stop. I'm coming home." She arrived Saturday afternoon with 2 suitcases and her cat. Patricia drove down from Kelowna that evening. By Sunday, my house was full again, but this time with people who actually loved me. Sarah had seen the emails. "Dad, what David did. It's unforgivable. How are you even functioning? Your mother taught me to be stronger than I look." We spent Sunday cleaning the house, removing every trace of David and Rachel. Their furniture went to charity. Their belongings went into storage. Patricia scrubbed the kitchen while muttering creative curses involving David's anatomy. Sarah planted new bulbs in the garden. "Mom would have wanted tulips here," she said, kneeling in the dirt. "Red ones, her favorite." That evening, the 3 of us sat in the living room. It was the first time the house had felt like home since Eleanor died. "So what happens now?" Patricia asked. "Margaret says we wait. If they try anything else, we escalate. She's already had David's lawyer friend contacted by the Law Society about professional ethics. Apparently, what he tried to do could cost him his license." "Good," Patricia said viciously. "And David's business?" "Struggling, according to him. Which explains why he needed my house money so badly." "That doesn't excuse it," Sarah said quietly. "He betrayed you. He betrayed Mom's memory." "I know. Are you going to forgive him?" "I thought about that for a long time. Your mother would want me to, eventually. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean letting him back into my life without consequences. He has to prove he's changed, really changed. And that's going to take years, if it happens at all." Christmas came 3 weeks later. Sarah stayed through the holidays. Patricia came back down and brought her kids. We had 17 people in the house, friends from my hospital, volunteer work, neighbors, Eleanor's book club ladies. We set up a table in the garden under a tent because it wouldn't all fit inside. At midnight, Sarah found me standing at Eleanor's grave. It was snowing lightly, rare for Vancouver. "Dad, everyone's asking for you. Just saying goodnight to your mother." Sarah slipped her arm through mine. "She'd be proud of you. How you handled David. How you stood up for yourself. She'd be heartbroken about David." "Yeah, she would. But she'd still be proud of you." We walked back to the house together, to the lights and laughter and love. David sent a card in January. No return address. It said, "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know I can't fix this, but I'm sorry. I put it in a drawer with all the other things I wasn't ready to deal with yet. Sarah moved back to Vancouver permanently that spring. Got a job at the aquarium, moved into her old room. Just temporarily, she said. But we both knew she was staying to keep an eye on me. I didn't mind. The house needed life in it. Patricia visited once a month. She'd appointed herself my protector, and heaven help anyone who crossed her path. Margaret became a friend. She'd handled everything so perfectly that I invited her to Eleanor's birthday in March. She came, brought wine, and told embarrassing stories about other cases that made everyone laugh. My doctor confirmed what I already knew. I was physically and mentally sound. Grieving, yes. Depressed at times, certainly. But competent. She wrote a detailed letter for my file, just in case David ever tried anything again. He didn't. From what Sarah reluctantly told me, his business had failed. He and Rachel separated. He was living in a basement suite somewhere in Surrey, working retail. His lawyer friend had been suspended from practice for 6 months. I should have felt satisfaction at that. But mostly I just felt sad. Sarah found me in the garden one afternoon in June, pulling weeds from Eleanor's roses. They were blooming beautifully, red as blood, perfect as hope. "Dad, there's someone here to see you." I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. "If it's a salesman, it's David." My heart stopped. What does he want? "He wants to talk. Just talk. I can send him away if you want." I looked at the roses. Eleanor had always believed in second chances, sometimes third chances. She'd believed people could change, but she'd also been nobody's fool. "Tell him I'll meet him in the front yard, not in the house. And you stay where you can see us." David looked terrible. Thinner, older, worn down. He stood by the gate like he was afraid to come closer. "Dad, thank you for seeing me." I didn't say anything. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve the chance to apologize. But I needed to try. What I did, there's no excuse. I was desperate. I was greedy. And I convinced myself I was helping you when really I was just helping myself. I betrayed you. I betrayed Mom's memory. I destroyed our family. "Yes," I said simply. "You did." I'm in therapy now. Real therapy. Trying to figure out how I became this person. And I realized, I don't know you. I don't know who you are, what you like, what you dream about. I spent my whole life seeing you as just Dad. Provider Dad. Fix-it Dad. But not as a person. And whose fault is that? Mine. Completely mine. You were always there. I just never bothered to look. We stood there in the June sunshine, my son and I, with years of damage between us. "I loved your mother more than life itself," I said finally. "When she died, part of me died too. And then you tried to take what we'd built together, tried to erase me. And I realized that losing you hurt almost as much as losing her. Because I lost you both. Your mother to cancer, and you to greed." David's face crumpled. "I know, Dad, I know. I'm not ready to have you back in my life, David. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. But I won't stand in your way if you want to change. That's on you. You want to be my son again? You earn it. Therapy, accountability, years of consistent change. Not words, actions. I understand. And if you ever try something like this again, I won't show mercy a second time. I wouldn't expect you to." He started to leave, then turned back. "For what it's worth. I'm glad you fought back. I'm glad you didn't let me destroy you. Mom would have been furious with me, but she'd have been proud of you." After he left, Sarah came out to stand beside me. "Are you okay?" "I don't know yet. Ask me in a year." That night, I sat in Eleanor's chair and looked at our wedding photo on the mantel. 43 years ago, 2 kids who didn't know what they were doing, promising to love each other forever. We'd made it. Through job losses and money troubles and sick children and aging parents. Through everything life threw at us, we'd made it. And now, I was making it alone, but not entirely alone. Sarah was upstairs on a video call with a colleague. Patricia was coming next weekend. Margaret had invited me to a barbecue with her family. The hospital had asked me to coordinate the volunteer program. Life wasn't over. It was different, smaller in some ways, but still worth living. I picked up my phone and called the number I'd been avoiding. Hello? Hi. This is Robert Morrison. I'm calling about the grief support group at the community center. Oh yes. We meet Thursdays at 7. You'd be very welcome. I'll be there this week. Eleanor would have approved. She'd always believed in moving forward, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the evening light fade over the garden. The roses were beautiful this year, the best they'd ever been. Maybe Eleanor was still taking care of them somehow, taking care of me. Or maybe I was finally learning to take care of myself. Either way, I was still here, still standing, still fighting, and that was enough.